quilty friends, welcome back. My name is Laura. You found Lality Stitches, and today's episode is a quilting bee. I have so much to show. It's been a couple months since our last video, and that was actually intentional. I think every other month seems to be a good rotation for the quilting bees, as it gives me more time to have things to share with you. So that will probably be a trend that continues through the future, unless I get a whim. And then all bets are off. So anyways, I've got lots to show. I've got finishes, and I've started working on a couple of the projects that have been in the works. And yeah, let's just dive right into it. So I'm gonna get serious here, pull up my sleeves. So the first one is a top that I finished, well, no, it's not even that. I started it last year. I don't even think it has a page in my brain binder, which is okay. But it means I don't have specific information on starts and finishes and everything. Anyways, it comes from this pattern from Primitive Patchworks called My Little Baskets. It's super cute, and I had actually always intended to do it in its original color palette. But last spring I got the urge to make it springier. So it's all done, and this is it. What started this was, first of all, I found this fabric and this fabric, which were both part of the same line, and I fell in love with them, and I was like, okay, what can I do with it? Then I dove into the stash, and I don't know, this is just where it went. But I'm super happy with it. It's really cute, and I had a happy accident. I had originally planned on binding it with this thatched, which I love this texture print. It's just a great blender, and they have a full rainbow of colors, but I actually ran out of it, so I didn't have it available, and I ran out to the quilt shop, and they had several other colors of blue, but not this one. So I went back to my stash, and I found this darker grunge, and I'm actually really happy with it. I know that the other blue would have worked, it would have been great, but this gives a nice frame and kind of anchors everything, so yay! I used hand-dyed wool for the little flower appliques, and yeah, I just did raw edge applique on the baskets, so they're fused down, and then I just use my machine to free motion quilt around the edges about 1/8 of an inch in, and it's just a quick and dirty finish, but it's on the wall. It's not going to get a lot of, you know, manipulation. And got a fuzzy, classic. Welcome to the quilting room. Anyways, yay, I'm really happy with it. I think it's really cute, and yeah, so that's the first finish. Where should I put these? Just on the floor behind me, that'll be fine. Okay, the next one I also started last spring, and I actually completed the top last spring, but then I didn't have any batting. And what inspired a lot of these finishes this time around was I was quilting some of my other tops. I have a goal to quilt 12 of my lingering tops this year, and a goal I'm well on my way on, by the way. Anyways, I just lost my brain. So I have batting scraps, and most of the time I will Frankenstein my batting scraps together to make larger battings again and be able to finish bigger quilts. But I got to the point where I had used the batting I had, and then I had also quilted everything I had backing for, except for my largest quilt, which needs a batting all of its own. Anyway, so I had smaller pieces. I was like, okay, let's get some small things done. So I've got some project bags in the works, and then I've been able to finish a couple smaller projects. So this next one was one of those, the Homestead. And if you saw my videos last spring, you'll know, but I'll say it again in case you didn't, in case you're new with us. This is a quilt that my grandma made. It's actually her pattern from years ago. When was this published? 1995. Oh my gosh, that's almost 30 years ago. Anyways, that's besides the point. So my grandma made this, and it hung at the bottom of her stairs as long as I can remember, as long as they lived in that house. And so I've had the pattern for years. She gave it to me years and years ago, and I've always wanted to make it, but I don't know, the time just wasn't right. Anyways, the time was right last spring. I made the top. This last month or so, I have sandwiched it, quilted it, and bound it. And it's a busy, happy extravaganza of color. So here she is, all done. Again, I used a couple pieces of hand-dyed wool, just gonna change the texture, make it my own. But I love it. I'm so happy with it. It's so cute. The red binding really, again, kind of finished it off nicely. I love that. And I love all the little fussy cut moments. So we've got like sunshine, and up here I have the full definition for embroidery right next to a unicorn, and it's just fun. It's a happy quilt. For quilting it, I did mostly a 1/4 inch. I just used my walking foot. I went in the ditch around this red border, and then 1/4 to a 1/2 inch around the house. Just super simple. It's busy enough I didn't want to add a lot of quilting on top of it. I just wanted everything anchored so it would hang nicely, and yeah. So she's done. I love it. I'm really excited to hang this one up. And the backing is actually, this is extra yardage from my grandma's house, and it's actually what chose the palette. She made napkins out of this fabric decades ago. And at some point while I was a teenager, she gave me the extra fabric, and it features here and there in my projects, but this is the largest moment of it, and it just seemed appropriate to use a big piece for the backing, even though you won't see it very often because it'll be on the wall. But yeah, happy. Okay, now we get into the big ones, the big finishes. There's so many finishes. This is wild. So this one is, I don't even have the pattern in my binder. That's okay. It wasn't honestly the greatest pattern. It's a really pretty finish. I love it. But I as much as I love the creator's designs, she makes really beautiful designs, her patterns are not well written. I hate to say it, but I mean, just in my opinion, they're not always clear, and I've found errors, and you know, and I always anytime I find errors, I'll, you know, shoot an email off and say, hey, just notice that, you know, measurements are off on this. And not like I'm the quilting whiz, but you know, sometimes no matter how much you test proof things slip through the cracks, and that's why we have correction tabs on people's websites, right? It's better to know and have the information available for other people who want to do the pattern than to not know. Anyways, it's okay that I don't have the pattern, because it's, anyway. I'm rambling. I love the quilt though. So I have called it, I don't actually remember what it's originally called, but I have dubbed it Indigo Stars because it's a 2-color quilt and I just went with 2 colors. Of course I went with 2 colors if it's a 2-color quilt. Okay, my brain is officially gone and we're only, what, 10 minutes in? It's fine, whatever. Who needs a brain? So, this is a queen size. I enlarged the pattern to make it queen size and did just a meandering stipple for the quilting. And then I bound it with a Sashiko print indigo fabric, which I love. I actually switched out the binding. I had something else chosen for this, and when I got it all quilted, I didn't actually like the one I had chosen. So I switched it out, and this is, she's all washed and done. Hi-yah! Oh my gosh. There she be. I'll fold it up in quarters again and come closer. Anyways, I'm thrilled with the finish. It's been on my bed for the last couple of weeks. Or maybe for the last week or so, I guess. But I love it. I love doing low volume backgrounds, just the texture, and there's something so cozy about them. Yeah, very fun. I will link the pattern information down below. Its name is not actually Indigo Stars. But I will link it down below. The designer does not sell her patterns individually anymore. She ran into some piracy problems, basically, and so now she only sells her patterns with kits, and it's kind of a grab them when you see them kind of thing. So I managed to get a couple of her patterns before she changed her policy. Anyways, but I'll link everything down below so you have information. Because, like I said, I love her designs. I love the finish effect. It's just, I wouldn't recommend her patterns to a beginner because most of her pattern writing leaves the assumption that you know the basics. And so if you know the basics, an intermediate or even a confident beginner could probably figure out her patterns. But there are, like I said, there are a couple moments where even I was like scratching my head, and I've been quilting for 30 years, so. Anyways, so the next few are full quilts. So this next one is Maud Strawberries by So Kind of Wonderful. I love this pattern, and I did mine with a low volume background again, and then just full scrappy. There's batiks, there's prints, there's all sorts of things. She's so pretty. So I just did a meandering stipple. I actually had other ideas, and then I sat down at the machine and wound up, plans change. But I went with a scrappy binding, so just different greens, which is really fun. And then the backing is loud, but the colors work when I get it up close, so it's fun. Anyways, yay! This is one of my favorite finishes this year. It's not, I definitely consider this pattern probably more of an intermediate to advanced level. It's not that it's hard, but there's a lot of steps. You have to stay organized. Curves aren't hard, but they do take a little bit. You can't rush through it. I think that's the way to put it, is you just kind of have to be patient with them and enjoy the process. But oh my goodness, it's so rewarding. So rewarding. I love this quilt. I'm so excited to use it. It's been hibernating in the corner over here since it had its first bath. and I've just wanted to use it, but I knew I was going to be doing a video soon. So I haven't taken it downstairs to put on the couch. I will today. The next one actually comes from Farm Girl Vintage. Yes, Farm Girl Vintage. And I went into the back. I have actually done the sampler. It's super cute. I don't have a backing for it though, so I haven't quilted it yet. But if you go in here, they have a quilt called Picnic Quilt Setting. So you pick one of the blocks, and any of the blocks from this quilt would work for this, and then you make the two sizes. And so I call it my maple leaf block quilt. And yeah, it was super fun. It went really fast. I loved doing it. And here is our finish, strings and all. Oh my gosh, this one's beautiful. Ah! Butterfingers. I love it. So again, it's just completely from my scrap bin. I didn't buy any fabric for this one, which feels really good. I've got a beautiful scrap room or scrap closet, so we went scrappy backgrounds, scrappy leaves, but with a few different colors. And I just did wavy lines, which is the first time I had done that. I've seen it a few times on Instagram and stuff, and I liked the idea of this, not only for its simplicity, but also because it feels like the autumn breeze kind of rustling the leaves, right? It gives a little bit of windy movement to it. Again, without being too much, because scrappy quilts generally have a lot going on. And then my backing is this paisley, which my husband loves. So this is his favorite quilt. He's an orange guy. And when I showed him this, he was like, "Oh, that's a cool quilt. I like the orange." Anytime there's orange in a quilt, that's the comment. "Oh, I like the orange." He's so cute. Anyways, there she is. I can hardly wait till, September 1st. This is going to be a feature quilt. I just can't decide if it's going to be in our bedroom, like just draped over the end of the bed, or on the couch downstairs. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so the last full finish I have is Book Nerd by Angela Pingel Designs. And this quilt is so much fun. I made the top years ago, like literal years ago. It's been languishing in my top bucket for a long, long time. And I even had the backing. I just didn't know really how I wanted to quilt it, or I don't know. I guess I was just waiting. It just had to be the right moment. I just wasn't motivated to finish it. Anyways, the time has come. She's all quilted, and I did something fun with the quilting. So I'll show you the whole thing and then I'll bring it up close. Love it! So all of the book covers are grunges or solids, or just texture versus pattern. I wanted it to be very clean, a little bit more modern, but all of the pages have prints on them. And then the backing is a hoot. It's so cute. Bookshelves. And between the unicorns and somewhere there's, oh yeah, alien ships and the cute little Kitter cats. But they've got everything from like art books to crafting books, car manuals, cute little frog princes. Oh my gosh, it's the cutest fabric. Again, I went with a scrappy binding, so just strips of, I didn't have one fabric that I had enough of that I actually liked with everything, because it is, again, a little bit more scrappy, but this one's a bit more stylized. Scrappy, it's a bit more intentional. String. So I just wanted it to be a nice clean edge, but not so bold that it pulls away, right? So we just went with muted greens all the way around. And there's 3 or 4 prints. Anyways, I love it. And this was my first time doing kind of a boxy swirl. And it took a lot more thread than I anticipated. Let's see, where does it show well? But oh my gosh, I love the finish. It's so fun. I'll be doing this pattern again. And it's not perfect, but I think that's that's part of the charm to it, is that each little spot is different, and some of the boxes are small, some of them are long, some of them are square, some are rectangle. They're just, I don't know. It was really fun to do, and I love the finish of it. So, and it's a much denser quilting than I do on a lot of my quilts. So it has a very, I don't know, I almost said quilted feel to it, but I mean, of course, duh. Anyways, yay! This one will definitely go right to my reading chair. I'll snuggle up with it. Maybe it'll get me reading some more. I swear, I have been, my to be read list is growing rather than shrinking, because the summer, really, like spring through summer, the last 6 months have just been go, 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 kind of chaos in all different ways. And, you know, it's just lifing, and that's great. But I have not been able to settle enough to read with any ferocity like I normally would, which is why I haven't been talking about books, because I've finished 3 in the last 6 months, which is not normal for me. That's okay. Everything has its season. Maybe this autumn I'll get a big reading bug and I'll read under my book nerd quilt. Okay, so this last one I still have in my binder here. So I'll show you the pattern. It is called Stars Above. I found it on or through Instagram. It's designed by Megan Collins, and her Instagram is, I think it's just her name, Megan Collins, but her website is megancollins.com. Anyways, her patterns are cute, well written, easy to follow. I've really enjoyed doing this one. Excuse my washed out print. I typically print my pictures in like draft mode, and I think at this point it was draft mode and I was running out of colored ink. So it's a little washed out. But I did mine. It's a queen size Christmas quilt inspired by @SoMerryHappy on Instagram, and I'll link her down below because her stuff, oh my gosh. If you're a quilter, you're gonna love her page because her She's just very cute, very creative. Her colors are so jolly. And yeah, anyway, so Christmas. Last time you saw it, it was just blocks, and now I have a top. And I'm only gonna show like a quarter to half of this because, like I said, it's queen size, she big. But she's also so pretty. I love the half blocks around. It almost creates a border effect, but it's also just a continuation of the blocks themselves. See the other side. They're all a little different. And I've done low volumes in the background. I love it. And let's see, where is he? Got my favorite Star Wars print in here. Oh, here's one on the side, R2-D2, saying Merry Christmas. And I love these octopi. I think that's how you say it, in plural. Anyways, cute, fun prints. The details up close are really fun. I think I'm gonna do just a solid green binding. I had this in my stash. I think it'll be enough yardage. And that'll be a nice, simple but strong finish. But I don't have any backing for this. So before, I would like to say sometime October, November-ish, I'd like to get a backing and get this quilted so it can be on our bed. I love it. I love it when a plan comes together, right? It's so good. Okay, put that back there. So that was a big thing. That one, I would say in the last 2 months, I spent a solid 2 weeks quilting, like sandwiching and quilting the things I've just shown you. I threw together that top, the Stars Above top, in probably a few days to a week. Got some mascara dripping. And then I have had probably around a month to kind of putter at other things. So, let me look at my notes here. Oh yes. So I had stacks of fabric I shared with you last time, collections of colors with patterns kind of paired with them. I did a lot of cutout. I had planned to do Christmas in July. That's when I did, excuse me, my goodness. So that's when I pieced Stars Above at the beginning of July, like in that first week. And then I cut out another Christmas quilt, which I had actually planned on starting. It's super cute. I'll show you my crummy copy here. Seasonal Patchwork. So it's this Christmas one there. It's all cut out and ready to go. And I had thought I would start that because Christmas in July, I was trying to do a theme. But then I kind of got burnt out on it. And so I started cutting out some of the other things I had stacked together. And that felt really good. So I have several projects prepped and ready to go for the next couple of months. It's just all sorted out for me, which is really nice to just kind of be prepped. And then when I feel the urge to come in and stitch, or sew rather, I just have to pick my project and it's ready to go. So that's great. I did a lot of that. And then I kind of reached a point where I had cut out everything, everything that I had pulled together, kitted up, and so then I got to start sewing, which was even better. Start some piecing. So the first one I started working on, how do I show you this? It comes from the Fall Winter Quilt Sampler magazine from 2007. I'm just gonna pop open my binder here because I've got it in a sleeve protector. It's been ripped out of the magazine for years. It's the prettiest, just a traditional, like, granny square, but on point, which I love. I love that part of it, is that they're on point. So I pulled together my color palette is this. So instead of going blacks and browns with red centers, I've got kind of rosy, peachy reds, and then I'm going, it's kind of almost desert colors now that I'm looking at it like this. I've got my teals, low volume backgrounds, but these beautiful kind of rusty mustard tans, and yeah, really fun. And then I have this fabulous fabric for border, and yeah, it'll be great. Anyways, I've done 3 blocks. It's all cut out and ready to go, and then I've been able to assemble 3 blocks. So this is my first one. These cute little prairie dogs. Oh my gosh, look at the baby one. And because they are on point, something fun about them is directional prints will stay directional. So I am being intentional about my piecing in this one. Sometimes there's no true like direction to a quilt, just depending on the design and what fabrics you've chosen. And so I'm less concerned about keeping directional prints facing upright. But this one, they are going to sit on point. They will be, at least if it's, you know, if I'm holding it up, there is a direction to it. So I am keeping my little critters and my flowers facing the same direction. So there's that one. Here's this one. I love this music print in the background. It's one of my dragon hoarding prints that I've had for years. And it's like, finally, it's just time to use the things that bring me joy. And this one. So this fabric is actually going to be, oh no, I closed the binder again. Oh, there we go. So this fabric is going to be this strong border out here. So we'll see that again in a larger piece. Yeah, and that's just the start. So everything, like I said, everything is cut out and ready to go. It's just a matter of pulling a few blocks out when I'm ready to be in my my studio and pulling them together. They don't take long to do. The first one, obviously, I mean, of course, when you're familiarizing yourself with any pattern, there's a bit of a, you know, you kind of have to build speed as you get familiar with it. But I feel like, at least for me, by the 5th or 6th block, it's familiar and things start to go a lot quicker. I will say I have not figured out, rather, an effective way to chain piece these. So that does slow it down a little bit, but that's okay. It's not a race. I'm not trying to finish this by any certain deadline. I just want to enjoy the process. There are a lot of bias edges, so if you're not familiar with that, that is where you're cutting diagonal diagonal to the grain. So when you're with the grain, your fabric isn't going to, there's always a little bit of stretch in fabric, right? But you can, I don't know if you can hear that. There's a bit of a pop because the grain is stronger. So that's the way the fibers are woven together, right? So the grain. So you can have a grain this way and you can have a grain this way. And when you cut on the bias, you're cutting at an angle. So in this case, it's 45-degree angles. And if I hold the same fabric, but I pull on the angle, it stretches rather than popping, right? So what this does when you're piecing is if you're racing through it, your seams will stretch. So we've got bias edges on these smaller setting triangles and then a big bias edge here. And so it's not that it's hard, it's just that you can't race through it. And there's something actually lovely about being slowed down and just enjoying it and being mindful about your piecing. And when you slow down and you pin and you just take your time, you get nice flat finishes. If you race through it and it stretches at all, because I mean, people can stitch fast and not stretch it, but it's a gamble. If it does stretch, what you'll wind up with is a wavy seam. So you'll get warping basically, and it won't lay flat for you. And a little bit can be quilted out. Too much and you really distort your blocks. So there you go, little tutorial there. Because I just never know. I have viewers who are really accomplished, advanced quilters and viewers who are brand new baby quilters. And I just want terminology to be familiar for everybody. So there you go. The next one I worked on after getting things cut out is Cabin Peaks. So this is what I'm calling my spicy autumn quilt. And I am going to do it queen size. So I was originally going to do just the throw, but I had enough fabric that if I added one more half yard, which there's a hole there for it, I actually have acquired it, but I haven't filled it into my palette page yet. I can make it queen size, which means it can go on my bed. And I don't really have like a good spicy autumn colored quilt for our bedroom. So this would be great, which now makes me think if this were to be whipped together with relative quickness, it would be great for our bedroom this fall, and then the autumn leaves could go downstairs in the living room. Anyways, just a little detour in my brain here. Anyways, so this is the colors, this is the palette. Yum. They're just so good. And you can see I'm going kind of spicy, or not spicy, kind of scrappy again with my backgrounds. I often do that because it means I can work from my stash as much as possible, and I can do more if I work with what I already have, right? So this is a stack of, I think it's six blocks. They all look the same, or except for one or two. Okay, I've got two backgrounds. So I'll show you this first one. So this is the first one. So these are just quarter locks. They're super quick and dirty. Longest part is cutting everything out, right? And now at this point, everything will go together really quickly. And this is an alternate. And they all sit, let me see what's the angle, like this in rows. And I have not determined the order of my color flow yet. I figure I'll just get all of my blocks done and then lay them out. Sometimes once you work with the fabric a little bit more, they kind of, I don't know, this sounds totally silly, but they kind of speak to you, and it's like, oh yeah, this is the right order. Right now I'm not sure what order they'll go in, but you can see they'll have some differences in the low volumes. And this is probably one of the busier I'm not sure, my words aren't coming out right now. One of the busier, darker pieces. A lot of them are a lot more, they read a bit more solid. That's probably the way to put it. But I love it. I mean, you know me, I like a busy quilt. I like a quilt with movement. Let's put it that way. Because for me, there's a difference between like busy, my eyes are exploding and I can't focus anywhere, and busy, there's movement and personality and it's fun. I don't know. It's probably all in my head, and that's fine too. It's part of the fun of creating things, is we all have our own style and our own flair, and because of that, our creations have their own magic. Okay, this next one is called Brilliant Stars. It is also from a magazine. It is from the October 2015 American Patchwork and Quilting. The cover page looks like this. It's so beautiful, and you can see it's rated as advanced. I have admired these stars in different iterations for a long time, and I'm really thrilled to be doing one at last. It feels like one of those bucket list quilts. I'd also love to do, I think the block is called a Lone Star, and it's just one big star. This will be my introduction to that style of quilt. So sometimes when I have this mental vision for a quilt, but I don't have all of the fabrics, or I'm pulling from my scrap buckets, and you know, you pull out 5 or 6 big buckets of fabric and your brain can kind of short out. So I find that just pulling pictures from Pinterest and kind of making an inspiration palette page and then basing fabrics off of that is helpful. I do have more greens chosen than I have actually pasted onto my palette page at this point, because I got here and I was like, oh, it is really like bright heavy. I need some more deeper tones. And so I have rounded that out, but I haven't brought it to the page yet. But I have made my first block. I'm so excited. I'm so tickled. Ooh. And she's big, so let's see here. Oh my goodness. So fun. Oh my gosh. So all of the background will be this lovely art gallery strawberry print. I'm just staying there with this quilt. There's enough going on and these beautiful stars. I wanted them to be the focal point. I did want a little bit of something in the background, so it was a bit of a hunt for the right fabric that would have a little something but still be airy enough to read basically solid from a distance, right? Just a little bit of something. And I finally found it, and I have my first block done, and I've already started on the second block, and I can feel that this one has my heart right now, so we'll definitely have progress. I mean, isn't it pretty? And each one's gonna be a little different. Like in fact, my scraps here, these are 2 pieces from the next one. Totally different, but like in the same palette, right? And there are some that are bright, and there are some that are a bit darker and moodier, and I'm so excited about this project. And I feel like I handle it with kid gloves because, again, there's a lot of bias edges in this. You're cutting your strip sets on a 60-degree angle to create these beautiful diamonds, and so it just feels very fragile. I don't know that it's as fragile as I am putting onto it, but yeah, anyways, She's lovely. And I can hardly wait to get several of them done so I can kind of lay them out and be like, yes. Okay. What else have I worked on? Oh yes, there's more. But wait, there's more. Phew. Oh, excuse me. My goodness. Dust. The sun is back in full swing. We actually had some pretty spectacular thunderstorms like Sunday, Monday. It was really fun. I know a couple spots in Utah got some flooding, unfortunately. So I hope that nobody had too much damage because of that. I hope it was temporary and everything dried out okay. But here on top of the hill, it was a pretty exciting show. And it was so healing in a lot of ways to see rain. Like, we've had months, it feels like. We've gotten a couple of middle of the night brief showers, but this was a legitimate deluge of water coming out of the sky, and the skies were just rumbling and talking, and the lightning. It was so cool. I love a good storm. Anyways, it was very cool. I realized I never took a drink. But it was what was even cooler, because I can't think of a better word apparently than cool. What was even more beautiful than the rain itself was how everything revived for a couple of days after the rain. The grass, I swear there's new baby grass growing in the dead spots because they've been so parched with the heat and lack of moisture. Even though there's sprinklers that go every day, but it's just not enough to compete with the heat we've been having. Anyways, everything has just felt more vibrant and fresh, and the air has been clearer for a couple of days, which has been lovely. And it was actually cooler, which is why my air conditioning isn't on and I'm wearing a sweatshirt. I'm not cold. It just feels cozy. And the heat's back. It's supposed to be closing in on 100 degrees today, and whatever, summer. But it's been, I just had to give a nod to nature and say thank you for a little bit of a break and a little bit of revitalization, and it's been good. It's been really good. Good for me. Okay, so the next one we're going to look at that I worked on is Midnight at the Oasis, which is a Jem Kingwell quilt I have been working on for a million years. I wish I was joking. I started it in, I want to say 2018, 2019. It was probably summer 2019. I think that's right. And then I got to a certain point and then just kind of lost the fire for it. And part of that was because the blocks are this big. Okay, not really. They're this big. And so there's just a lot. It wasn't, I don't know, there wasn't a lot of, dare I say, instant gratification. But I think also I was just, in 2019, obviously we didn't know it, but we were building up towards the pandemic, and my work life got really busy at that point. I took on a lot more at work, and, home life doesn't stop just because you're busy at work, and, I just didn't do a lot of quilting. And so by the time I got back to a point where I was like, okay, I have the brain and heart space to actually be creative, I just had kind of moved on for a little bit. Anyways, I'm back. It's awesome. And I did 53 3-inch churn dash blocks. And then I put them together and I put them on a quilt. sorry for my little bum shot there. But the next round is done. And here she is. And I could just squeal. I'm so excited. Like, oh, it's so good. It's so funky and fresh and fun. Every single block is different. They're all Jen Kingwell fabrics, with the exception of this small polka dot, which was an intentional diversion from it to create contrast. Aren't they fabulous? I just love them. I did, if you're looking at the pattern, you'll be like, Laura, your third border is different. And yes, you are correct. Or second border. I redesigned this whole border to make kind of mountains with my hexagon rings in the corners. So it is different. But yeah, next round done. So I'll pin this back on the wall carefully. And then I'm going to get started on... Sorry, let me fold this up really quickly. I'm so excited. Consider my enthusiasm rekindled. So the next round is just a checkerboard border, and it is all cut out and ready to go. You know, hundreds of little squares. And I'll take a little bit of time, but I'll be good kind of like in betweens if I'm not kind of feeling something that'll, like sitting down and doing this block is a couple of hours probably. It just takes a little bit of time, and you have to be intentional and focused, or you cut it wrong. And that's a disaster when, excuse me, when you're working from scraps that you cannot replace. I only say that because I did that yesterday. I had one of the rows turned the wrong direction, and I literally cut like 2 inches at a 60-degree angle before I realized, like, Home Alone gasp, right? It was the wrong direction. So I flipped it over and cut as many as I could, and I totally had to wind up like pulling pieces apart from the scraps that were left over to create a strip that would work at the right angle to get it was a mess. So if my brain power is not at that level, then I can definitely piece squares together. There's very little brain at this stage of the project. It's just powering through. But again, it's gonna be so cute. I'm very excited. I'm excited to be kind of back in motion with this one. And I definitely have a goal. I'm gonna say it out loud because it holds me accountable. I would like to finish the top. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna get the whole thing quilted and bound and everything, but I would like to finish the top before Christmas. So, there we go. It's out there in the universe, not just in my brain. Yeah, so that is the main piecing, the main work I've done. I've been insanely productive, and partly because just everything was kind of staged up and ready to go. It looks like I've done all this stuff, but there have been solid weeks where I've done nothing. It's just, you know, it's what I love to do, and so I spend a lot of time doing it. Where am I going to put my brain here? I might leave it right here, because now we're going to talk about next steps in the studio. I like it when people call craft rooms studios, because, you know, there's a lot of effort and a lot of work that goes into it, and there's a lot of creativity that goes into creating quilts or pillows or, you know, whatever happens in here. And for my room, it's a multi-craft room. I mean, I dabble in a lot of different things, but it just feels I don't know, gives a little bit more gravitas to what you're doing. Like, this is my studio. This is something that I'm giving a good chunk of my life to, as far as like hours a day go. And perhaps it is worthy of that level of a word. It's a studio. It's where I am creative. And so another little detour in my brain, but I like that term. So I'm trying to like start saying it instead of just saying, oh, we have often through our marriage, my husband and I, shared a space. We haven't had the extra room. Sometimes we've never had a room. Sometimes we haven't had a room at all. I have spent many years sewing on the kitchen table. But when we have had an extra room in one of our homes, we often share it. So we'll call it the soffice, the sewing room office. Half of it is his office and half of it is my sewing room. So we've called it a soffice a lot. But, and I mean, we're still sharing a room. His office is just over to my left here. But I don't know. I like calling it a studio. This is my studio. This is where I do the things that make my heart happy. So, so I'm going to try to retrain my brain. Okay. So, what is next? Obviously, I'm going to continue working on the 3 quilts I have here. But like I said, I mean, you guys know me. I work on many things. And I will often do, so when I set my goals for the week, I typically will say, okay, this is what I'd like to accomplish this week in my studio. And usually I will look at the projects I'm currently working on. I'll go through my brain binder and I'll be like, oh, I'm interested in this one this week. I'd love to work on that one. I think I'll skip that one and I'll work on this one instead. And then I'll say, okay, I'd like to, depending on the intensity of the blocks, like this, I would say I'm going to do 1 color, so 6 blocks. So I want to do 6 blocks this week. I can do that in a couple of hours. Those are really quick blocks, and they're already cut out for me. So it's like sew, press, sew, press, sew, press, right? And then I'd say, okay, I'd like to get a couple of these done. They take a little bit longer, but it's still really achievable. I could do it in an afternoon. I'd like to do 1 of these blocks. I know it takes a bit more time. It might even take me 2 afternoons to do this, depending on my focus level and what else I've got going on. And between that, I've got 3 to 4 afternoons of sewing. If I have any extra time, would I add something else? You know, that kind of thing. That's kind of how I organize my projects and how I try to continue to make progress on things, because sometimes I spend 3 hours in my studio, sometimes I spend 45 minutes. You know, it's just, it depends on what's going on. And especially, I love living close to my sister, and this is not a complaint in any way, shape, or form, but it could be termed as a distraction. Because when my sweet little niece is over, like, you follow her around, she's 1.5 years old. She is a busy child, and yeah, and I love it, and I choose it over sewing a lot these days. So it slows my progress down a little bit. That's okay. It's not a bad thing. But I kind of adjust my plans and my goals based on what time I have available. So I get questions sometimes. I'm like, how do you get so much done? And I don't know. It's what I do. If I had to say I am this, I would say I am a quilter. I am a cross stitcher. I am, you know, those are 2 of the things that really define my interests in life. So, and they always have. It's just what I do. So it's what I give a lot of time to. So I had Happy Mail come. You could call it an acquisition. You could call it I totally forgot I did this kind of moment. But I got a notification last month from Fat Quarter Shop reminding me that I had pre-ordered a beautiful quilt kit. And now it was time to get that. And I had completely forgotten because it's been 6 months or so and since I ordered it, and I just plumb forgot that it was just not in my realm of anything. So, but it came and it's so cute and I'm so excited to get started on it. This is Big Woods and it's a collaboration between Tula Pink and Sarah Fielke, who is she's one of my quilting like heroes. So I actually meant to pull these over. Normally I do a featured designer at the beginning of my videos and like a featured notion. I don't have a featured notion because I haven't bought any new notions. And I've kind of shown you, I'm not a huge notion person. I use the ones that work for me. And unless I see something that I'm like, oh, I have an immediate application for that and that could be really helpful, I'm just not a notion person. I'd rather buy patterns and fabric. So, so I've kind of shown you basically what I use. So Sarah Fielke is one of my poor books. Years ago. How long ago is it now? 8 years ago? Is it that long? It might be 8 years ago. We had epic rainfall in Oregon, and where we lived specifically, we had some pretty major flooding. And so this is why I say I hope that the flooding wasn't terrible for people, because I know how devastating it could be. We lost at least 60% of our belongings in this flood just due to water damage. And unfortunately, my quilting books took a hit as well. But Sarah Fielke is an Australian designer, and these are harder books to get a hold of in the States. So I found these years ago. This was actually a library book. I bought it at a library sale, and once I've had this book and learned there was a second, I hunted high and low and was able to find both of these. So this is actually a collaborative effort between both Kathy Dowdy and Sarah Fielke. They have worked on this book together. But so there's the cover one, which I just love. I definitely went through a hardcore polka dot loving phase. But one thing I love about her designs is it's something I've learned from her. She's not afraid of color or texture. They are scrappy and magnificent. And let me see if I can find another one where, and this isn't even my favorite one for the book, but like there's a lot going on there, right? But it's so interesting. And I feel like it elevates a lot of these projects into the category of artwork. And I just find it very inspirational. Oh, the pages are hard to turn. I'm sorry. Classic pickle dish. I love it. But I also love this. There are only 2 borders of piano keys. They didn't do it along the bottom, which is just interesting. And again, a lot of pattern, a lot of texture, but it's intentional and it's very effective. And I definitely take a lot of inspiration from this as I start pulling fabrics for my quilts, because I love it. I think it's beautiful. So anyways, so when I saw that, oh, fiddles. Where did this come from? One of these books. Okay, we'll tuck it in there for now. Anyways, if you like what you see, I highly recommend these books. I think they're fantastic. Material Obsession 1 and 2. And I don't recommend putting them in floodwaters. Anyways, so when I saw that there's a collaboration going, because we know I love me some Tula Pink, but then also Sarah Fielke, I was like, sign me up. Also, could it be any cuter? Look at the mushrooms and the cute little owl. Oh my goodness. The woodpecker. All of it. It's so cute. So it has its own binder because it is, I have the full kit. Woof. Which is all these gorgeous Tula Pink fabrics, which I can't even fan out enough to show. But I mean, that's as much as I've opened it. I just haven't really dove into it yet. I've been busy. And it just started 2 weeks ago. So I've had the kit for about a month, and then I've had the pattern, the first portion of the pattern, which is this first house block. I've had it for a couple of weeks. So, but something cool she did is she gave, as part of the first month, a she gave a tutorial or a pattern basically for a block book. And I've seen these before, but I've never made one. And it's literally a book of fabric and foam core and batting and covered in fuzz right now. I'm picking the fuzzes off. But you can hear it's nice and firm, and you put your blocks in it in the pages to keep them safe. And I don't know that I would do it for, you know, my average pieced blocks, but there's a lot of applique in these, and should I ever want to take it with me anywhere, having everything together and contained, I don't know, I liked the idea, so I made one. And I kind of made my own, like, adaptation of a pineapple block, if you will, with Pinkerton, the fantastic unicorn. And then got my batting pages ready for future blocks, and Tula Pink, because I mean, it's a Tula Pink quilt. It felt like it should be themed, right? Anyways, I just finished this yesterday. I miscut my foam core and it was too small and I had to go out and buy more. So that felt really good. But yeah, it was super fun to do, and I don't know, it feels very satisfying, like I've done something substantial, but now I'm all set and ready to go. And she actually recommends, I have done needle turn applique before, and my own kind of adaptation of applique. I can show you, in fact, this is a video where I get up and down and up and down. So I've done applique before. I'm fairly comfortable with it. It's been a while since I've done any recently. This is a different Jen Kingwell project I'm working on that, again, I have not worked on recently. But Sarah Fielke is an accomplished appliquer, I would say. She's very, very skilled, and she has a different method of getting her shapes. She feels it's a more accurate way of transferring your shapes, and she uses a laminator for her patterns. And so I found one for like $15 on Amazon, and that should be here tomorrow, and then I will be able to start working on my first block. So that'll be exciting. It'll be fun to, I figure I have, you know, I've bought the kit, and I have these, she has fabulous videos associated with it. So the pattern is, I mean, I've got it in my binder here. Oh, that's my little, normal is boring. A little pep talk in here. Anyway, so here's just like, I can print off the pattern, but it's all online, and But the cool thing is I feel like I'm going to a class because she and Tula Pink have made videos together, tutorials, and it's fabulous so far. I've watched them even though I haven't done anything other than make the block book. And yeah, it's really interesting. And so I figure I've got this resource. I'm going to try to do the applique with her method and just try something different and learn something new, and hopefully I would anticipate that it will enhance my skills, and I love that. And if it does, then I see a lot of applique in my future because I have several projects going with applique and many projects I dream of doing one day. So that's really fun. I'm definitely going to start that. And then I had been pulling, I showed you guys last time, I had pulled a basket. I can show you the basket. It's right down here. Sorry, baby girl. I raided my scraps, scrap buckets, and I've got my fabric pulled for Wensleydale, which is this cover project. Where is a picture without a, there we go, Wensleydale. Which I find this just to be a very calming quilt. I think it's really beautiful. I did get, this was my spending money this month, this and the laminator. I got the acrylic template set to go with it because there are like 7 or 8 different templates, and I could have made my own with like template plastic or even my new laminator that's coming. But I thought it would be, especially where it's super scrappy and I'm working from a large selection of fabrics, and I'll probably just approach this one block at a time. I'll pull for one block and move on. Do that, move on. Rather than planning down to the last triangle what will be what. Just leave it a little bit more organic and creative and kind of based on the mood and what fabrics are available. And I thought that the acrylic templates would be really helpful for that because I can literally just sit down and use my rotary cutter, and once I peel off this paper anyways, and go. So, and as you can see, some of these shapes are pretty funky. But yeah, like this isn't even equilateral. It's an off. Anyway, so I think it'll be helpful. They weren't expensive on Amazon. I think it was like $23 or something like that. And so that made it really accessible. I think it'll be helpful. And so I would like to get a couple of these blocks done at least. They might wind up going really fast and I just dive into the deep end of it, but keep working on these, start my block of the month, and then start Wensleydale. That's plenty. That'll keep me busy. I got lots going. It's good. It's really nice to have finished a good handful of things, so I feel really comfortable just kind of settling into these new projects. I'm always really happy to have, in fact, I prefer to have multiple projects going because, as I kind of mentioned earlier, I don't always have the brain space or the desire to work on something more complicated. I like having different levels and different styles of projects so that when I come in here, I can kind of pick up what's comfortable and what's inspiring at the moment. And then within my bracket of goals for the week. So diversity is good. But it's nice to finish things so that I definitely reach a threshold where I'm like, I need to finish some things up and kind of move them on so that I can focus more effectively on the new projects that I'm interested in, or just other ones that I'm in the middle of. So anyways, but it's fabulous. I have knocked off some of my oldest projects, and frankly, once Midnight at the Oasis is done, I won't have any projects that are older than a year since I started them. So that's good. That's real good. I'm catching up. I do have some tops still languishing, but we'll get there. Finishing a quilt is, you know, there's just as much investment in batting and backing as there is in the top. So, and it's okay. They're not going anywhere. They're just aging like fine wine. Yeah, so that's my plans. As I said earlier at the beginning of the video, I think I'm going to be doing my quilting bees every other month. Just gives me more time to have things to share instead of just a couple blocks. Look what I did in the last 3 weeks. 3 blocks. Because some weeks go like that. Some weeks you quilt 4 quilts. Some weeks you make 2 or 3 blocks. You just never know what life is going to bring and how productive it will be, or how like staged things are up to be finished. That was a weird sentence. I think you get what I'm saying though. Sometimes you just have everything ready to go, and so things finish really quickly, and so you feel like you've done all this stuff, and other times it's not quite as obvious that you've been doing a lot of work. Anyways, I will be back with another quilting bee in October, which sounds so far away right now. But it'll be here before we know it. And I'm real comfortable working with, even like the palettes feel a little bit more seasonal to me. So like end of summer kind of vibes, even branching into early fall. And then at the start of October, I will pull out my, I have a picture of it here, Pushing Up Daisies, which is that cute little skulls and flowers quilt. It's all cut out and ready to go, but I'm not going to stitch on it till October 1st. So it's prepped and ready, and you'll see a few of these blocks by the time we meet again. But for my universe, it's still a month and a half out. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed. It was kind of like a little mini trunk show. I have so much finished. It will not be like that next time. This is not a normal quilting bee. This is an exciting one. But I will have more blocks to show you, and so we'll start to see kind of how these color palettes will come together in their actual block forms, and that's always very exciting. At least it is for me. And then hopefully I'll have 2 or 3 where'd it go, of my block of the month, the Tula Pink Sarah Fielke blocks appliqued and ready to share. So yeah, there'll still be lots of fun things to see, and who knows, maybe I'll find a new tool by then. Okay, happy stitching, my friends. I hope you get all the time to do all the things you want to do that make you feel full and joyful and happy. Doesn't have to be big. Life can be simple and sweet. I think that's good to remember. It's so easy, isn't it? With social media and the internet, this wonderful, marvelous tool that keeps us all connected, but it's so easy to feel that FOMO, kind of that fear of, you know, am I doing enough? Am I enough? You know, kind of, I definitely have moments where I feel like I need to do more for some inexplicable reason. Keep up with the Joneses, as it's got to be something akin to that. But simple is good. Simple is beautiful, and And if you thrive in doing all the things, that's fabulous. But if your life is quiet and peaceful, I think that's beautiful. I think that's wonderful. And lean into it, because not every month is quiet and peaceful. I think it's good to appreciate those moments as they come. They give balance to the hectic pace that life sometimes keeps us at. Anyways, don't FOMO. Life is good. Do what you can and enjoy what that is, and always happy stitching, right? Take care, my dear ones. I'll be back.